The Coast Guard, we continue to search for these 11 missing crew members, and we'll search until all likelihood of success has passed.
Strong winds are speeding a disaster onto the US coast. The first traces of oil from the slick have now reached the mouth of the Mississippi River. Out to sea, the situation is much worse. Planes spraying dispersant chemicals on the oil slick are making little progress. While BP's crews fail to cap the ruptured well pipe on the sea bottom, the company has called for help from US Navy submarines, but experts say it could take 3 months to stop the flow while it continues to pour out tens of thousands of liters of oil every hour.
I think the rest of the world isn't blind. We know what's happened, and we know that BP obviously didn't do what it was supposed to do. Only you don't know that.
We launched an investigation within 24 hours. I wasn't part of that decision-making process. Again, I was not involved in decision-making. It's impossible for me to answer that question. I had no prior knowledge.
Are you failing to cooperate with other investigators as well? Because they're going to have a hard time reaching conclusions if you stonewall them, which is what we seem to be getting today.
I'm not stonewalling. I simply was not involved in the decision-making process.
My time has expired, and I'm just amazed at this testimony. Mr. Hayward, you're not taking responsibility. You're kicking the can down the road and acting as if you have nothing to do with this company.
You're really insulting our intelligence, with all due respect, by not giving us any answers and telling us that you have to wait for some investigation.
It seems to me that BP has not been honest with the American people. It's not been honest with our government. And it seems as though you're trying to hide something, trying to hide something, trying to hide something, trying to hide something.
It appears as if our worst nightmare when it comes to the oil slick is coming true. The oil slick has drifted into that loop current, that current of water that flows north through the central Gulf of Mexico, now picking up oil, and then back over towards the Florida Straits, the Keys, and even over towards the Gulf Stream waters, which flow right across Palm Beach County. And the unfortunate news is that it appears that we will now have to deal with oil over the next several weeks. Now, here's a look at a computer forecast model. This is why we think that we will have to deal with this. This is right now. You can see the oil slick here highlighted by the black. The loop current is right there in red. You notice it kind of pops back down and then moves right through the Florida Keys. Watch this over time. Here's the 23rd of May. It is something that now impacts all of us. All of us. All of us.
The word hurricane was a name given to nature's strongest storm. A hurricane occurs when high pressure and low pressure masses of air come in contact with one another. There is often a significant difference in temperature between the two masses. One mass is warm, while the other is cold. The warmer air rises and the cooler air falls. Likewise, the low pressure area slides down the sides of the high pressure area. They swirl in and around one another, creating the beginnings of the storm.
So I got a very fiery sore throat after being in the water. I had covered myself, all my skin, so it wasn't skin contact, but the fumes. But I talked to shrimpers today who were throwing their nets into the water. It's about a month ago when they were using the more toxic Codex, the 9527. The water from the net splashed on his skin, and he got a headache that lasted for 3 weeks. He had heart palpitations. He had muscle spasms and bleeding bleeding from the rectum. And that's what that Corexit does. It ruptures red blood cells, causes internal bleeding and liver and kidney damage. So this stuff is so toxic combined. It's not the oil alone, the dispersant alone. It's the dispersed oil that still contains this stuff. It's very, very toxic.
This is what has farmers worried. These tiny dots look as though something burned straight through the leaf, and they're finding this everywhere. Tiny dots appear different depending on the plant. On corn stalks, the dots seem to turn white in the center. On other plants, a white dust speckles the leaves, then destroys the green life underneath.
We found it all in the herbs, in the flowers, in the plum tree, in the weeds. It's apparently on everything.
Tony Holt grows organic produce that she sells at area farmers markets. As these farmers inspect the new growth covered in the perplexing plague, they fear their entire crop may be lost. Just down the road, less than 10 miles at Wilder Farms, the damage could possibly hit hundreds of acres of corn.
It's sudden, and it's so wide, it's so large out here. Everybody's seeing it.
It appears to have hit everything: crops, weeds, trees, and there's nothing in common. The Holts raise organic crops so they don't spray pesticides on any of their fruits and vegetables. The first thought was a parasite or insect, but Wilder Farms sprays pesticides, and the damage is just the same. Farmers here first noticed the damaging dots over the weekend. Then Holt came home to find this: baby martins dead.
There's 2 dead birds hanging out of 2 different gourd houses, and so we're concerned about that. We don't know that it's related, but it's alarming. You know, we have horses. We're concerned about the horses on the grass. We've got chickens. We sell our eggs at the market.
Now, the farmers that we spoke with are convinced that something in the air caused this damage. They're asking the USDA as well as other experts to look into this problem.
How long you been here, Melba? 37 years. You ever seen this much oil? In the water, let me show y'all. They got absolute sheen. There's oil so thick. And I'm watching these rains that they develop on the radar. You see the sheen over the cat walking through the oil. But I saw where these rains were coming off of the Gulf, and I wondered, could it produce some oil in it? And I'm telling you, what we're seeing here, you see the rainbow, that's oil. And it's everywhere you look. I mean, it's all over the streets. So I believe we get some oil rain right down here in the Big Easy.